presentation to City Council last week, and how many either watched that on TV or were present? I want to try to not to duplicate that. Did anyone see that? Paul, nice to see you. And I know Daniel was there too. Well, I would just like to give you an overview of the monies that we have to work with, the taxpayer dollars and some of the other funds that we have, and how we have to make tough choices with those dollars, and how we're looking at prioritizing those right now. But of course, it's very important for us to get citizen input. And so that's why we're here tonight, is to hear what you think the priorities are. And so we hear your voice when we're making the decisions moving forward into the new year. For those of you who don't know, we have a general fund that makes up the majority of the monies that we have. It's $223 million in 2012. We do have a total of 49 different funds that come to about, this is our Chief Financial Officer, Cara Skinner, so I'm going to look to her to make sure I'm saying the right numbers. 380 million total to work with the city. And those funds, beyond the general fund, most of them have to be used for very specific purposes. So it's not like we can take those and use them for other things. And so, depending on the numbers you're going to hear tonight, 223 million or 380 million, you'll know that's the mixture of the two different funds. Something that we find to be very important, and certainly we're finding to be very important just recently going through an emergency within the city with the Waldo Canyon fire, is to have a general fund balance that's healthy that we can tap into. And we don't yet know the total cost the fire had on the city. It's going to be somewhere in the neighborhood of, and this is not property loss or damage, this is city's payroll and some of our operating expenses. So there are much far greater costs involved. These are just the city costs, somewhere in the neighborhood of $3 to $4 million. And we expect that FEMA, the federal through the state, will reimburse in the neighborhood of 75% of that, but we really won't even know that until we enter 2013. So general funds come in very important when things like that arise. And certainly when we have issues with roads, streets, or bridges, or other things such as that, or public safety, we have the general fund that we can draw upon. So I'm going to look at some papers just to quote some statistics. We ended 2011 with a general fund balance, an available balance, meaning the monies that we can easily access, of about $38 million. That makes up about 17% of the total revenues. That was the healthiest fund balance that we've had in the history of the city. And that's something to be very proud of from a city standpoint. However, I'm getting ready to tell you some real staggering numbers of $500 million in stormwater needs and $400 million in streets, roads, and bridges. And so it makes that little less than $40 million pale in comparison, yet it's greater than we've known. And so therefore, we're moving in the right direction. We anticipate, for those of you who have been paying attention to some of the supplemental appropriations we've made with public safety, with roads, and some other things that we've done over the course of the year, we're going to end 2012 about the same amount, slightly up in the general fund balance, right about 17.2% entering 2013. Then it comes to the tough choices we have from a budget standpoint, because there are costs that simply we cannot avoid, we cannot control. Pension costs are rising, particularly as it relates with the sworn costs moving into 2013. That impacts probably in the neighborhood of around $1.6 million of costs that no matter what we do, we can't change our reality. Then there are costs relative to utility increases. Again, not necessarily something we can directly control, but we can talk more about that if you'd like. Not that we run the utilities company, but I guess anything are options. But those sorts of things we carry those forward into the new year. And then there are needs that many people would love to see us work toward, whether it's increasing the things we do for our parks, our over 150 parks that the city supports, or whether it's talking about transit needs. And there's a real loud outcry about that, and we do hear it, and we're very sensitive to it. But we're also trying to focus on what we consider to be the core services for the city. And the core services, certainly public safety, ranks #1 to us. And so that is always something that we look toward to make sure that we're adequately funding. And there's some significant capital dollars associated with public safety, as in vehicles and breathing apparatus and things that are just must-haves. Then those big numbers I just shared with you, $500 million in stormwater, and you're going to hear more and more about stormwater in the days and weeks ahead, particularly as we're in the rainy season for Colorado Springs. We used to pray for rain, and we still do, and we love light rain. But when we have thunderstorms, particularly after the fire, the damage that could be done in that regard, very, very significant. So our stormwater needs are big, and there is $500 million worth of backlog since we ceased the SWENT funding. About $83 million of those projects are immediate. Hi, Mike, thanks for being here. And from our engineering department, he knows very well what I'm talking about. $83 million are considered priorities for stormwater, immediate priorities. To put that in perspective, the first pass of our 2013 budget, we carved out $2 million. That's what we're thinking. We can take a small bite at the elephant. And that was a very tough choice to make because other departments did not necessarily get the fundings that they wanted to operate city services. So there's some tough choices related to that. Street, roads, and bridges, that's about a $400 million backlog to keep the pavement quality index at the level that's considered acceptable, which is touching about 10% of our roads every single year. Right now we're carving out in the neighborhood of $3.5 million is I think what we've done. In a perfect world, stormwater would be, pick a number. Stormwater would be 10 million, 20 million to catch up. Street, roads, and bridges would be an additional. And so as we move forward into 2013, we have a lot of tough choices to make because there's only so much money to go around. And we are anticipating revenues that will grow at a very moderate level. The impact of sales tax from the fire, by the way, tourism, I'm sure you know, has been greatly impacted this summer. And that coming, by the way, from the business of tourism all my adult life, summer's where you make your money. So to have that impact in the summer and have people not travel to Colorado Springs and spend their dollars with us, there is an impact to that. We still think we'll be slightly over budget with our revenues in 2012, but we are anticipating that those revenues aren't going to grow very significantly in 2013. And so that kind of sets the stage of some of the tough choices. The timing of the budget is on October 1st, we present to City Council the executive branch's recommendations on how we should spend taxpayer dollars in the best way to serve all of you. So we have a couple of months to still work through it. It's a very long process. But at this point in time, perhaps what I should do is open it up to questions that the audience may have specifically.
Well, exactly, and the mayor and I have often